Good morning, folks. It is WKRK Radio in Murphy, North Carolina, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25, worldwide at country.am, and also streaming on your Alexa device, your Google Home device. Also some smartphone apps as well. So glad you've joined us this morning. It's time now for our weekly radio show where we get to ask the sheriff some questions, find out what's going on in the community as far as law enforcement, crime, and this is a public service show where we just get to pick the brain of the sheriff. Oh, I guess I should take the screen off your face so it doesn't just... There we go. Now let's put our logo back up there so people know it's us. Because, people need to know it's us, I guess. All right.
We've got too much to do these days.
Yes. Okay, now I can hear you.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, you've got too much to do these days. Too many buttons to push.
There's a lot of buttons to push for radio. Yeah. How are you doing this morning,
I'm
Sheriff?
Doing well this morning.
Welcome back to the studio.
It is Friday, and it looks like it's going to be 86 degrees today. And I watched Chattanooga weather this morning. Mm-hmm. If people hadn't heard already, they said Monday and Tuesday supposed to be up near 100 again.
What?
Like in the high 90s. I can't believe that.
We've just had kind of a roller coaster weather, haven't we?
We do. We've got all these people that love fall and waiting on fall to get here. And I like fall myself, but summer's not over with yet, it don't look like. So kind of be careful while you're out there. Snakes are still crawling and bees are still flying, so you could get in trouble.
Get in trouble with those snakes, yes, and the bees. And I have not, knock on wood, I have not seen the first snake this year, but I know I have not. Have you?
I don't think. Well, I saw a couple on the road, but not at my. I saw one at my house.
I've seen several on Facebook that people are posting, and people, please stop posting them.
There was a huge black snake at my house, and I thought you brought your black snake back.
Every time I go in my basement, I look around just in case.
Right.
Because I knew you put that one in my basement from your car that day, but
and I think that black snake I saw a couple months ago was the first one I've seen in a long time that I didn't kill. I just kind of put it back off in the woods and let it go. So I don't know why. I must have been feeling good that day or something. I didn't kill it. I just let it go.
And I finally got to the point of overcoming my fear of the black snakes. I'm like, okay, if it wants to go in my basement, that's fine, because I keep on hearing that they'll keep the copperheads away.
Yeah.
So
they will.
If a black snake wants to live in there, that's just fine. I don't want to look at it.
You see all these pictures on the internet and stuff about black snakes killing copperheads and eating them and stuff. I actually witnessed that one time in real life. My dad and I was at our work shed working one day, and the hay grass next to us was just going crazy and didn't have any idea what's going on. And I remember my dad weeding through there with a hoe, seeing what it was, and it was a black snake, and a copperhead rolled up, and the black snake was eating it, had it about halfway eaten. And ever since then, he never would let us kill black snakes at home.
But if that black snake crawls
if it's in my car,
if it crawls up in bed with me, that's going to be a different story.
Yeah.
You remember that rubber snake that I brought in here to scare you with?
I do.
Well,
I sat here like all show and didn't even see it either.
Yeah. Well, I had had it at home, and I put it on my nightstand one night, and I forgot it. I woke up and I saw that thing on my nightstand.
I bet you came out, didn't you?
knocked that thing halfway across the room.
Yeah, that's a rough way to wake up.
That's not a good way to a good way to not wake up. Yes. So anyway, I guess we should get on with the snow. The snow.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a good early forecast.
No, it's not.
No.
We did have some heavy fogs in August, though, so that says we're going to have some snow this year, according to the old timers. So.
Yes. All right. I understand there were some prowlers down in the Bell Hill area, which constituted a chase. Let's talk about that.
Let me see here. About what time was that? I got it on my phone here. It was last night, about 11:30 last night, somewhere along in there. We got a prowler call down the Bell Hill area, suspicious persons walking around people's houses and that type of thing, pulling people's driveways, and the deputies responded down there to identify them, and I think it was in a foot chase, actually. Got a foot chase with them, prowling around someone's house, and actually apprehended them last night and got them in jail. So, just want to give a shout out to the deputies, the hard work they do and the good work they do out here in our communities. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere all the time, and things do happen. Things get stolen, things get broken into and all that. But, this past year especially, we have Our deputies have caught lots of people breaking enters in progress and suspicious persons and those kind of things. And so they're out here actively looking, patrolling, trying to find things that's happening. So not only them, but we've talked about our investigators recovering a lot of property and working hard to get property recovered from people that do have it stolen. You know, the fortunate thing is, and I try to remind people of this, we do need more help. I mean, we need more officers, need more people on the road. I'm not disputing that. But the fact of the matter is, if the commission board gave us 50 more deputies and we had all 50 of them out there patrolling, people are still going to break into stuff. They're still going to steal things, and there's still going to be drug use and people using drugs and things of that nature. So, you know, I do agree that I think we need more, and we need more patrol out there. We need more people out here working. But to think that we're going to keep all bad things from happening is just not reality. It's going to happen anyway. And
you'd have to assign a deputy to every person.
We would. And but for what we have and the people that are working, the amount of officers we have on the road and detectives we have working, I think they do an exceptionally good job out here solving crime and preventing crime and those type of things from happening.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, at this past commissioners meeting, there was an issue raised about a situation with horses, and it was about some horses that were, they were seized from a criminal investigation. The charges were dropped, and so the horses need to be returned to the owners, but in that process, something about the people were charged again.
The district attorney office recharged them.
So I know that created a lot of questions, a lot of, I know there's a lot of responsibility as far as financing where to board these houses. The horses were in bad shape. The horses were being used as evidence. Then the horses became in good shape. Now can they be used as evidence now that they're in good shape? Can you kind of clear up all this mud about these horses?
Well, those animal control issues is a huge issue that we deal with. And as you know, we're in the process of trying to get an animal control officer. We've actually got a person that we're assigning to that. I'll go ahead and announce it. We're not got it effective yet because she's not been to school. But Rebecca Snyder, who is one of our deputies that are out there on patrol overnight, she's going to take over the duties of animal control officer in addition to her patrol duties. And she's very excited about that. She's very passionate about animals. She has animals of her own that she loves very much and takes very good care of. And she's very excited about getting out and working animal control for Cherokee County. But in the course of doing that, there's training, schools, equipment that has to be purchased and bought. As you know, back in June, starting July 1, the commission board approved an animal control monies to be allotted for that for Cherokee County. Fortunately, the first school that's available is in October, and that's when we've trying to get her into that school to be nationally certified animal control officer. That school is full, and we've got her on the waiting list, but we are also looking at other schools that hopefully we might can get her into if she can't get into that school in October. So inevitably what happens is when you have schools that are full, the reason you put people on a waiting list is because people drop out of school for various reasons.
Right.
And so we're waiting on a slot to open up to hopefully she can get one and be there in October. But like I say, if that don't come to pass, we're looking at other national schools that we can try to get her to be a certified animal control officer. But getting back to your question about the horses and those type of things, what had happened was we opened up an animal abuse case involving some horses. These horses had some severe nutritional issues and some other issues with the horses that required veterinary care. The veterinary care and the courts recommended that they stayed under the care of the vet because of their severity of their conditions.
Right.
If we had just brought those horses to our pasture range at the training center, the odds are they would not have survived. They would not have made it. And so the courts elected to, and what we elected to do was leave them in custody of the veterinary so they could take good care of them, get them back to health, those type of things.
How many horses are we talking?
7 horses.
7 horses?
7 horses.
Okay.
To get them back into good health and that kind of thing. So in the course of the charging and it being scheduled for court and all those kind of things, as you know how things work with the court system, things get continued, they get postponed, they get, things happen. And so in the course of that time period, these horses started getting some weight put back on them, started getting healthy again, those type of things. I can't really attest to why or why not. I can just say that case was dismissed against the defendant, and then was re-indicted again by the DA's office after it was dismissed. That's, like I say, that's a question for somebody else, not for me to answer. But it was recharged again, which those horses still remained under the veterinary care because of this new court case that was coming up. So,
but those horses were separated in different facilities, correct?
Some were together, some were in different facilities, places that could take care of them, places that could house them, horse foster ranches and things that could had veterinary care that could take care of those horses. I wasn't there Tuesday night, and I would tell you the truth, I'm not cared to go back and watch it according to some things that were said at that meeting. I was not feeling well Tuesday night. I went home, went to supper, and then went home, went to bed. The next day, I got up and started getting phone calls blowed up about things that were said about me in the sheriff's office at that meeting, and I'll just leave it at that. And again, I didn't care to go back and watch it after that because I didn't want to get my blood pressure up. But one of the issues that's currently going on now with the horses is the fact of that some of those horses are back to the place where they can be pastured. We can put them out to pasture at this point. However, two of those 7 horses are stud horses. And they're horses that, if you ever raised horses or know anything about stud horses, they can be very aggressive, extremely aggressive.
Right.
And so one of the concerns from the foster people and from the veterinary people that we've had conversation with was the fact of that, especially one of these stud horses, both of them are this caliber, but one especially has become very difficult to contain, has been very difficult to corral, has been, kicking and tearing up stuff and biting and hurting and trying to exert his dominance, I guess. And one of their concerns was if we bring all those horses back and put them in a pasture together, even if we have a fence separating them, these stud horses will tear the fence down. They will get out. They will hurt themselves. Could potentially hurt the ones taking care of them. Could potentially hurt the other horses. Could get loose after they tear the fence down. Could get out and cause traffic issues. That being next to the 4-lane, those type of things. Those are all concerns that people have. And so what I've done is I've sent an email out to the commission board and to the county manager, basically stating that my recommendations for these horses. And what happened is that where some of the horses are that can come back to be pastured, from my understanding is the owners and caretakers of those horses now are the actual ones that's in their possession are out of town and won't be back until the 16th. And so we can't legally take possession of those horses till those people are here to sign those documents and to sign those horses over to the custody of the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, because they are evidence. They're a chain of evidence that has to be kept there. And so there has to be veterinary evaluations done. There has to be handed over to the Sheriff's Office before we can actually take possession of those horses and put them out to pasture. I know the concern of the commission board is about monies, about paying boarding fees and stuff of that nature while the horses, when they could be pastured. The situation with that is, however, and I think it's what we need to all keep in our thought process, is upon a guilty verdict or guilty plea, the original owner of these horses can be ordered to pay restitution back to the county or back to whoever that has to foot the bill for all this stuff. And so it's not like county monies that we're going to be losing. It's county monies that can be reimbursed and paid back to the county.
So is that case still ongoing?
That case is still ongoing.
How long has it been?
I don't know when the original charge was. It's been a while.
But years?
I think a year. I'm pretty sure a year. But the district attorney's office has committed to hearing this case on September 19th and disposing of it one way or another, either through plea arrangement or through trial. They're going to dispose of this case on the 19th. And so my recommendation that I sent out to the county commission board and to the county manager was, we've got till the 19th. This thing's going to be adjudicated on the 19th. The people can't sign the horses over till the 16th. So my recommendation is to leave them where they are till the court hearing, till We can see what the courts are going to do, to see what the judge is going to rule, see what's going to happen, and not take on that liability of moving all those horses to the same place where they could get hurt, where they could get out, where they could hurt somebody. Somebody having to catch those horses, contain those horses could potentially get hurt. So my thing is, they have them contained, they have them corralled, they have them in a safe place, they're taking care of those horses. And my recommendation is to leave them where they are until the court hearing. And I know that's not what the commission board wants to hear, and I know that's not what they like, but the fact of the matter is, this is evidence, this is a criminal trial, and this is a decision that needs to be made in the best interest of the court hearing and the best interest of the case that's there, and not necessarily just a monetary issue.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of factors need to be taken into consideration of that. And I hope, after reading my email, the commission board and the county manager will take those things into consideration as to the placement of those horses. And again, at the end of the day, when it comes to monetary issues, they can make decisions based on the monetary issue. However, this is a criminal case and a piece of evidence, so I make those decisions on that. And so
I think part of the other concern was, with it being part of the evidence, if the horses were now healthy when the evidence was when they were unhealthy, that the condition of the evidence has changed over time.
Yeah.
And can that still be used?
Well, yeah, it has to do with your documentation, pictures, documentation, veterinary records, things of that nature. It's kind of like a person being assaulted. When you get beat up and someone assaults you, you could be in an emergency room fighting for your life. But by the time that goes to trial, months or years later, you could be in good health by then, by the time it goes to trial. So there's really no difference in that. It goes back to the records. It goes back to the documentation and things that when it first happened and when you're accused of that criminal act.
So once this case is all settled and done, are those horses supposed to go back to the owner?
That will be a judge's decision at that point. In the event that it would go to trial, and in the event that the person was found not guilty, then the judge more than likely would make that decision to give them back to the owner at that point. Upon a guilty plea or guilty verdict in that hearing, then it would be a judge's decision what to do with those horses at that point. They could actually, I think according to statute, they could order, the judge could potentially order those horses to be sold at auction to try to recover some of the monies spent on those horses. A judge could order, different rehabilitation ranches or different places, foster homes, different things for those horses. So that would be a judicial order is what they would decide to do with them at that point.
If I remember correctly, about $28,000 has been spent so far
Somewhere
on
along there.
on the horses. That sound right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's amazing how things add up with veterinary bills and lodging and things like that.
And as we go into animal control, and as we start making more and more of these type of criminal cases and taking animals as evidence and holding those animals, you will see those kind of expenses and those kind of things happen. That's part of doing business.
Right.
That's what happens when you deal with criminal cases. And so, the fact of the matter is, when you think about liabilities, for example, $28,000 seems like a lot of money, but that's not a lot of money when you consider putting stud horses in the field with mares and them tearing the fence down and getting out on the 4-lane and a vehicle hitting them and someone dying because of that. Then the liabilities and lawsuits is far greater than $28,000. And so, we can stand up and scream and yell and make all these bold statements about how much money's been spent on these horses, but you got to take all these factors into consideration. Because you could be spending a whole lot more than that. And so that's just part of doing business.
So as far as animal control is concerned, are folks still being urged to call the non-emergency dispatch number at 828-835-3144? 3144. Yeah. And is that for animal complaints, missing pets, all that? Or?
Well, we're going to address all of that. Right now, all we can enforce is the criminal aspect of it. We have no real ordinances or anything to address animal complaints as far as nuisance type things. But what we're going to do is, once we get Deputy Snyder situated into this position and get her to a place where she can start developing statistics and numbers and records of people calling and all those kind of things, then we can look at what the real needs are in Cherokee County. And if we get a lot and it shows that most of our complaints are those nuisance type things, those things that require ordinances, then those are numbers and statistics we can bring back to the commission board and say, we've got X amount of calls for this, X amount of calls for that, and here's the issues that need to be addressed in Cherokee County. And so That's one of the purposes of getting this animal control off the board. So what I encourage people to do, like I say, hopefully we're still about another month out, maybe a little bit longer than a month. But once we get this established and get it going, I encourage people to, whatever your animal issues are, whether it's stuff we can deal with, whether it's stuff we can't, I still encourage you to go ahead and call and report that so Deputy Snyder can keep a record of that and keep statistics of what the complaints are out there and what the needs are for the people in the county.
Now, once this gets all up and going, what do you anticipate the relationship between the animal control part of your office is going to be with organizations like the Valley River Humane Society and Logan's Run Rescue and those organizations? What kind of relationship do you expect to have with those organizations?
Well, I think with that position, they have to work hand in hand with these organizations. They have to work in cooperation with these organizations as far as the different animal issues that are going on out there. What I would like to see, and we'll call all these partners together when we get it off the ground and get it going to try to formulate a good plan, a good policy to work on that. But what's going to happen is, like we've talked about before, right now a lot of the calls are going to the health department, they're going to Logan's Run, they're going to the Humane Society, they're going to different places. And so with this, with the deputy being involved in this and spearheading this project as animal control, we'd like to see that as the central location for all these calls to come in, so that officer can work with Logan's Run and Valley River Humane Society and the health department and these other places, to where when she receives a call and it's not a criminal issue, it's nothing we can do with the sheriff's office, she don't just simply hang up the phone and say there's nothing we can do, but she can work partnership with these other places to hand that person off to the appropriate person that can help them deal with their issue or problem. So I foresee this being a partnership effort, not just Cherokee County Sheriff's Office by itself, but a partnership effort with the other partners in the county, not just them, with the police departments and different things, because they have their own ordinances in the towns. So we'll see them working in partnership with the towns also to try to help with those animal issues within the city limits of towns.
I think it's going to take a lot of education to our community too.
It will.
To say, here is what it's going to take going forward, whether it be radio, newspaper campaign, social media campaign, just to say, here's what it's going to look like going forward.
Right.
And maybe even these organizations like your office and the health department and places changing their voicemail menu system for animal complaints, press 1, and then transfer them to the right one call center.
Yeah.
I can see that. Thank you, Miss Emma. Yeah, I think that's going to be a great thing going forward, having that one central
And I want people
place.
to understand this also. Like I say, this school is scheduled to be like mid-October. And so I want them to understand that, even though we may be up and running by the end of October and getting this thing off the ground and going, we want people also to understand that animal issues are not going to be fixed by the 1st of November.
Oh, no.
Right. That this is going to take partnerships. It's going to take a cooperative effort, like you say, those educational campaigns, those different things to get off the ground, to see exactly what we have going on in the county, what we can partnership with people about, how we can help people, what kind of calls are coming in, those type of things. That is really going to be that cooperative effort of trying to get all that done.
They'll never be fixed. They'll just be processed and dealt with, and hopefully lessened.
Right.
But like you say with crime, it's never going to be fixed.
It's never going to be fixed.
You just got to do the best you can.
Yeah, sure is.
So, but all you can do is keep working on it and hopefully educate people.
But the thing about it is, when you talk about animal control and you talk about these things that's going on in the county, the thought process automatically goes to dogs, right? That's when you talk about animal control or animal issues, that's where 99.9% of the thought process goes to, is dogs, stray dogs, barking dogs, nuisance dogs, those type of things. But what people forget about when you're talking about animal control, you're also talking about things like feral cat populations. You're talking about horses. You're talking about other livestock, whether it's cattle, goats. We have llamas in the area. We have emus. We have all kind of things I can think of off the top of my head that we have in Cherokee County in different locations. Buffalo, we have all kind of different things here that would fall under that animal control category. And so, there's a lot of bigger issues and a lot bigger things to think about other than just a barking dog when it comes to animal control. So that's why I say we need to send Deputy Snyder off to these national certified schools to learn how to deal with all these different issues, not just to deal with the barking dog, but to deal with all these other animal issues that are out there.
I'm looking forward when you get your first call from someone saying, I am having trouble with my neighbor's emu.
I'll tell you a funny story about an emu. My wife and I, it's been several years ago. It's probably been 10 or 15 years ago now. We were over in Cades Cove, Tennessee, which I went Labor Day this year too, by the way. But anyway, about 15 years ago, we were over there. And there's a park ranger handing out flyers when people was coming into the park. And we was like, what's going on? Maybe there's a wreck. Maybe there's some kind of accident in the park, whatever. Well, we get up to the ranger, and he hands this flyer to us with the numbers to call on it. And he said, I just want to let y'all folks know that someone has turned an emu loose in the park. And if you see it, call one of these numbers. Here's the contact numbers to call, because we're trying to get it caught, get it out of here, since it's a non-native species. And so we're like, okay, took the paper, and I started down the road about 100 yards. And I turned and looked at my wife, and I said, what's an emu? She said, I have no idea. I said, okay. So I threw the paper on the dash, and we drove around the park a time or two. And about an hour later, we was driving around the back side of Cades Cove Park in the wooded area, and where it comes back out to the fields, all of a sudden there was this big ostrich-looking thing run across the road in front of me and crossed the road and run out through the field. And I looked at my wife, and I said, that must be an emu. She said, yeah, I think it is. So that was my first experience with an emu and what an emu was. So,
and I didn't get a press release on that.
No,
Sheriff.
like I say, that was about 15 years ago.
Okay.
So at the time, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what the emu was.
I don't think I've seen one in real life either.
Yeah, but but that was my first experience with that, and learning and realizing what an emu was. But we do have those in the county. We have farms.
And I can't wait for you to get your first official snake call as animal control officer.
That's why I'm not doing it.
Oh, that's right. Yes. That'll be funny.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, anything else you want to add to the show today? I see our time has crept away from us.
No, again, like I say, it's going to be hot again for the next few days, and summer's not over with yet. So people's going to be outside working. I've got projects I've got to get done and do that, that it's going to be in the heat of the day. It's going to be hot. So just be careful while you're out there, and don't think it's foul and I don't need to drink water anymore and those kind of things. So do your summer hydrations.
All right, folks, you're tuned to WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable TV channel 25 worldwide at WKRK.love.